श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। जन्माद्यस्य यतोन्मयादितरतस्य अर्थेष्वभिघ्नस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्मरुधाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यं सूरयः तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि. So we are starting the Skanda 11 today. There are only 12 skandhas, as you know, as part of the Bhagavata Puran. Dashama Skanda was the biggest one, so we covered that. Now, Skanda 11 has 31 chapters, and it has 1367 slokas. Mainly, this skanda covers dialogues between the Shukhamuni and Parikshita that continues, and also there are Narada and Vasudeva discussion also happens. Krishna Uddhava's discussion, that is Uddhava Gita, is part of the Skanda 11. Uddhava Gita or Prakritiya Patha is another. It's very popularly known as Uddhava Gita. Is a part of this Skanda 11. And also this Skanda is very important from the point of view, the end of Yadu dynasty happens in this Skanda. The disappearance of Yadu, disappearance of Krishna, everything happens mentioned in this Skanda. And most importantly, this Skanda, the 11th Skanda, has a lot of information about Bhagavata Dharma, the discussion between Narada and Vasudeva, the father of Krishna. There's a discussion between them. The Bhagavata Dharma is explained there. So most of these Skanda covers a lot of teachings plus the conclusion of the Dashama Skanda, the Krishnavatara is happening, and flood happens, and the destruction of Dwaraka, everything is covered in Skanda. So today we will look into around 5 out of 31, 5 chapters, and that is the logical point where we can stop, then continue the rest of the things. Shukhamuni talks to Parikshit Raj is asking how the end happened for the Yadu dynasty. Then Shukhamuni starts explaining the total story of how it happened. Krishna, Balarama, accompanied by the people that Yadu dynasty executed the so many. They did all their job and everything happened. They talk about the Shukhamuni talks very brief about how the Pandavas and Kauravas were fought. See, this entire Bhagavata is entire Mahabharata is completely he is bringing closure to that in this Skanda. Right? He says Pandavas and Kauravas fought, they had a gamble, and Draupadi Vatsaparana happened. All those things they briefly mention. Then they say everything concluded. That means Mahabharata war is over. The day the Mahabharata war ended, the day Duryodhana died is the last day of the Bhagavata. Last day of the Dwapara Yuga. Then is the Kali Yuga started, because the Kali got relieved from Duryodhana. So he entered into the physical world again. So Kali was there with, they say Duryodhana himself is the form of the Kali. So now he got killed bodily in that war. So now he is free will. So he started moving around. Then Kali Yuga started. Then at that time, the Krishna thought he felt that though he tried so many ways to reduce the burden of the earth, when the see yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata, so he has appeared when it was a need, when the Kali has dominated. Draupadi was their own family member got disrobed. Those kind of things were happening at that time. So to conclude that, he came and he finished. Now Krishna is thinking, I think I have done my job. Now let the world run on its own. Then he will come back, and if at all he needs, he will come back, and if it is needed. Of course, everything runs, entire world runs by his will only, but his appearance in the form of a physical form is no longer required. That's what he felt, and he is thinking how to conclude this dynasty. He was thinking of that. This is what Shukhamuni is telling the story to Parikshit Raj. Krishna was thinking, how do we end the dynasty itself, Yadava dynasty? Because Yadavas are becoming very, very strong, and it is unbearable. Because as soon as the dynasty becomes very, very strong, and they think there is nobody can stop them, that's where the ego, and that's where the bad thing starts happening. So now he's thinking of concluding that part. So what happened? There was a Yadu dynasty whose members were already becoming arrogant at this point. And at some point of this time frame, sages like Rushimunis like Vishwamitra, Kanwa, and Durvasa, Bhrugu, Angirasa, all these guys, all these rishis, they realized Krishna is going to conclude his avatara. So one day they decided to visit Dwarka. They came, they entered near they entered nearby Dwarka, and they were, people came to know that these rishis have started coming, and the arrogant Yadavas, the boys, the young boys with lot of arrogance, started behaving like egoistic persons. Even it did not stop son of Krishna. His name is Samba. Samba is Krishna's son. With I think he was born to Jambuvati. So even the son of Krishna was behaving like a very egoistic and very arrogant behavior. All these kids, youth, they came near these Rishimunis, and they started questioning and all those things to insult those guys. So what they did is, they came and said, oh, we heard that you are so knowledgeable, and you have controlled all the indriyas and other things. Can you, we also hear that you know the what is happening in the world, you can tell the future and all those things. They dressed Samba like a woman. Samba is Krishna's son. He was born, his mother is Jambuvati. So they dressed him like a woman, and they put some stuff for his stomach, as if she is a pregnant woman. Then they brought him in front of these rishis. These rishis have come to see Krishna, but these guys came before that, and they started questioning them, saying that this lady is very curious to know what kind of kid she is going to bear. What is going, is it a boy or a child, a boy or a girl? So she is very curious, and we hear that you rishis know, you are the Triloka Gnanis, you know the things. And one of that rishis, one of these rishis that I mentioned, got very angry, and he said, I know you guys are kidding, but I'm not kidding here. I'm very serious about the behavior, being in presence of Bhagavan like Krishna, still you guys can behave like this means you deserve destruction. So now I say, yes, this guy who is disguised in as a woman is going to give birth to a metal club, and that metal club will be the reason for destruction of the entire Yadukula. These rishis are always like that. They, though they have achieved so much siddhi, sometimes they lose the control of anger. They get angry. That may be the reason they have not gone to the moksha yet. Those, that is the reason they lose the power by doing cursing like this. But anyway, this is all Bhagavan Krishna's plan. He needs a mechanism to get the to reduce the Yadava family and to make it zero, right? That's how he planned it. So now the situation happened. The Rishi cursed Samba to deliver the metal club. That is the metal club which is going to destroy entire dynasty of Yadus, Yadavas. And he did not delay. Immediately he gave birth to a metal club, iron club they call. And so everybody got scared. What happened? How come this came out of his dress? And then they started begging, but Rishi said, no, this is all done. This is part of the Kali Yuga, that you got the first result. You deserve this. And he went. Then these boys don't know what to do. They felt that, okay, we have become the main reason for the. See, this is what happens with even in today's politics. Some politician's son behaves very rude or something, behaves very awkward, and he completely destroys his parents' career. Because of his behavior, he will be caught. Law takes the action. Public will go against the politician, and suddenly entire thing will be brought down. This is what we see in day in and out. When sometimes we see anybody is doing bad things, will end there. Any dynasty becoming too goes to the top, has to come down. There are several ways to come down. It can come itself easily, graciously, and end the life. But sometimes these kind of behaviors bring them down. So this is what happened here in case of Yadu Vamsha. So what they did, immediately they went to Ugrasena, the king. They said, hey, this is what we have done. We are really sorry for whatever we have done, but somehow we have to protect. Otherwise, this metal piece is going to kill the, I don't know how it is going to kill, it's going to kill us. So very interestingly, Ugrasena also doesn't know what to do. They did not even consult Krishna. Even if they consult Krishna, he would have not done anything, because it is happening by his wish. So Krishna knew this, and he remained silent. He remained silent in several times. When the things happened, he let it happen, right? He even the Mahabharata war he would have avoided. Even the disrobing of the Draupadi he would have avoided. But he will not take participation directly in the drama. This is all his play, and he will sometimes come and show, and sometimes he will stop. Wherever he thinks it is the right thing to act, he did. But in this case, he did not do anything. He kept it silent, let it go. Ugrasena decided, okay, let us destroy the entire metal piece. They broke it down into the small pieces. They even they did the grinding of that. Then Ugrasena said, go and throw it into the ocean. Dwarka is by the side of the ocean, so they threw that into the ocean. But ocean, the nature of the ocean, it brings everything back to the banks. Somewhere nearby Dwarka, it brought every piece of the metal, everything back to the bank, because it came there, and there was lot of tall grasses were growing, and they grew with the strength of this metal that is going to be used in the future by Yadavas to fight each other. and one or two big pieces which were left in the when they did that when they tried to destroy those couple of pieces were left, they were eaten by a fish. That fish was consumed by nearby fishermen. One of the name of the fisherman is called Jara. If you remember, entire Bhagavata Purana uses this name Jara, right, couple of times. Janma mutyu jara vyadhi bhayopana jayate, right, in Vishnu Sahasranama. Jara is the age, the aging factor. So that's what in the name of the hunter is also Jara here. So Jara is the hunter who took that metal piece from that fish, and he used it to form a arrowhead, so that he started preparing to kill someone. We will come to know who got killed by Jara's arrow. So that's how the entire story unfolds, how the conclusion started. The world, same thing with, if you go to the scientific approach also, the conclusion also happens. It manifests in a different way and it concludes. Same way, there is a story which is the starting point of the end of a starting point of end of the dynasty. This is the story they talk about. So here Shukamuni says this is how the end started, and this is all a plan of Bhagavan. So he did not do anything at this point, he allowed it to happen. When this is happening, even all the knowledgeable people, the rishis, munis were coming. Narada also visited Dwaraka. When Narada came, and of course there may not be the same day it happened, all the things. These rishis came and went, and everybody came and went in the time frame of that 10 years after this is all happening after 10 years of Mahabharata war. So now Narada also visited at some time frame there. When the Narada visited, Krishna's father Vasudeva, I was so happy to see Narada, because Vasudeva was feeling that before I go out of this janma, I should attain moksha. He knew that though he gave birth to Krishna, he could not get out of that feeling of course, in the previous chapter we said he got out of, Krishna blessed him, Krishna gave him advice, and Vasudeva decided to get out of that affection and all those things. Maybe it is the process now, it's not one day happening, sir. So in that process, Vasudeva is now again meeting with Narada, and he says, I am trying to do this, get out of this feeling of Krishna being my son, and that attachment, that Vyamoha is still there. How do I worship him as a Bhagavan? What it takes? This is the question that Vasudeva is asking Narada. Help me. Is there a way? Of course, I am trying to do it since in Kurukshetra, before this war, when they went for the eclipse, that time itself, Krishna explained his father Vasudeva and even Devaki also, that how they can get rid of the feeling of owning Krishna, mother, the feeling of considering Krishna as the son rather than Bhagavan. So they should get out of it, and they worship him, and they get to the moksha kind of thing. So in the entire way, when they are completing their lifetime, they are already doing their practices. Now they are with Narada, and again they are asking the same question. The discussion happens. Then Narada gives the instructions, the Bhagavata Dharma, to Vasudeva, and he says, Vasudeva, this is not only your own problem. Everybody on this earth who are under the influence of Maya. Maya is just creation of Bhagavan as part of this activity running, right? This world is running because of that Maya. If you remember, I was mentioning about maybe in the chapter in the Skanda 3, the Maya is like a if you are an electrical engineer, you understand it is a slip we introduce in the electrical motors, right? In electrical motor, the centerpiece tries to catch the EMF induced, and as soon as it is caught up with that, it won't rotate. Then electrical motor is not functioning as a motor. So just to do that, what we introduce is we introduce a slip that as soon as it catches, we try to make it miss. So that way it keeps on trying to catch. That's why the motor keeps on running. So Maya is like that. This is induced, this is introduced by Bhagavan so that the entire world can, if everybody becomes like Sanaka, Sananda, the brothers, who as soon as they born, they said, we don't want to be part of this mess. We want to attain moksha. They went without participating in the creation activity. So that's where Brahma had the problem. If you remember our discussion in Skanda 2, Brahma had the problem that the one he started creating are not interested in participation, right? So that's why the creation started. If you go back and revisit what we discussed, that will help understanding the context here. The question of Vasudeva is a common man's question. How do I get out of this mess? How do I get out of this Maya? Even though he is son of his father, he is the father of Krishna, his son is Krishna, still he has that challenge. So what about us? We always have this challenge. How do I get back? We do commit the mistake, come back. How to avoid? How do I avoid this committing the same mistakes? How do I get, we commit in the materialistic world, we start doing a lot of things. Suddenly we get egoistic. We start saying whatever the word comes to my mouth, and then at some point we utter very bad words or maybe very hurtful words to the people around us. Then we realize, oh, I should have not done. There is no way to go back, but there is a way to go back. Correct. We talked about prayashchita and paschatapa, correction mechanism. Then that is what here Vasudeva is asking Narada, help me, how do I do this? This is the day, every day we should ask ourselves question. Vasudevas, we are all Vasudeva in this case. We have to ask ourselves this question, how do we do that? How do we overcome our limitations, overcome this Maya, which plays every time we decide not to be egoistic, suddenly we become egoistic. Every time we think we should do the right things, suddenly we start doing the wrong things. How do I get off this clutches of this Maya? So Narada Muni says, this is not only your question, Vasudeva, it has been asked several times by several people. Here is one time what happened. The King Nimi also has asked 9 Yogendras in the past, and they explained very well. So now, very interestingly, Bhagavad Puran is so interesting story. The way narration is so interesting. Vyasa has complete the chronological order of the stories, that who was born and when was Prithu born, what was his son's name, all those things he talked about, Prajapatis and everything, and he gave a list of things. And some portion he did not explain that time. Now suddenly he brings that context. He takes us back to those chapters where he had mentioned those names. Nimi, we have heard of this name, right? He will take us to King Nimi, and there is 9 yogis he talks about. There was a discussion, but now Narada and Vasudeva are discussing. Now Narada is telling Vasudeva, this is not your first question. There were several times it was asked. One of the incident was King Nimi asked the same question to Yogendra, 9 rishis. Those 9 rishis gave the Bhagavata Dharma, how one should lead, the gist of Bhagavata Puran. Now I will explain you. So now Narada Muni starts the story of the discussion between Nimi and the 9 yogis. So Narada says, Swayambhu Manvantara. He goes back to the Swayambhu Manvantara, right? He says in the Swayambhu Manvantara, first Manvantara of the first Kalpa, or maybe this Kalpa, right? Vaivaswata Manu, now the Vaivaswata Manvantara, Varaha Kalpa, right? Now we are in the Varaha Kalpa. Like that, there was a Swayambhu Manvantara was there before. This is the 7th Manvantara, right? Vaivaswata is the 7th Manvantara. So in the Swayambhu Manvantara, son of Swayambhu's son himself was Priyavrata. Priyavrata has a son called Agnidra. We have come across these names. Agnidra's son was Nabhiraja. Nabhiraja's son was Rishabhadeva. Rishabhadeva is the avatar of Bhagavan. Rishabhadeva is the Jainism's starting point, right? Jaina Muni. So he himself is avatar of Bhagavan, one of the Amsha of Bhagavan. And Rishabhadeva had 100 sons. Bharata was the oldest son. Because of Bharata, entire Bharata Varsha got the name of Bharata. Otherwise, the name of this piece of the land is called Ajanabha Varsha. This is what Bhagavata says. In the 11th chapter, 11th Skanda, he says, he takes us back to Skanda 3 and 4, says that this is what happened in Swayambhu Manvantara, and he gives the list of the kings, the Prajapatis, and he comes up to Rishabhadeva, and Rishabhadeva had 100 kids. Out of that, the oldest was Bharata, and that is the name that came to this Bharata Varsha. Otherwise, the previous name of this land was this land doesn't mean earth. Actually, if you remember, we saw there are 7 dvipas, right? Out of the 7 dvipas, Bharata Varsha had Bharata Kshetra, 9 different divisions, right? Like that, if you remember the Skanda 5, we saw 7 things, 7 dvipas, Jambudvipa, and all those things. We looked into the structure, where is the Meru Parvata, how they are divided. Each one is divided into 9 different zones, and each zone is led by the Prajapatis. For example, in this case, Swayambhu Manvantara time frame, the son of Bharata, son of Rishabhadeva, 9 of them out of 100, 9 of them are Kshatriyas. They started ruling these 9 dvipas. He talks about all those things in this story. Narada says all these things. He says first, the eldest son is Bharata, and Bharata is the highest devotee of Narayana. That is the reason he got attained moksha. We talk about the Bharata, and then Bharata became, we saw the story of Bharata also, right? Then 9 other sons of Rishabhadeva were known as Nava Yogendras. Out of them are Kavi. That means 9 people become yogis, 9 people become Brahmins, and 9 people become Kshatriyas, right? Like that. Overall, around rest of them He gives now. I'll talk about rest of them also. One of them is Kavi Havir and Hari. Kavi Hari Antariksha Prabhuddha Pippalayana Avirhotra Drumila Chamasa and Karabhajana. These are the 9 people who became yogi. 9 sons, they become yogi. And these are the one went around. They went to Vaikuntha and reached Vaikuntha and all those things they talk about in Bhagavata Puran and the 11th skanda, this chapter. They decided to share their knowledge. They went wherever they went and explained this. Their intention was to help more people to get self realization. And remaining yet, out of that, there were 9 more sons of Rishabhadeva. They took the Kshatriya roles, and they became they managed 9 dvipas of Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha 9 dvipas. If you remember, we discussed about all these 9 dvipas in the Skanda 5. Bharatakshetra, Mahavideha, Airavata, Ramyaka Harivasa, Hiranyakshetra, Himavanta Kshetra, like that, like Uttarakura. I like that Uttarakuru. I like that 7, 8, 9 different dvipas we discussed, and they become the kings of those 9 kshetras. As a kshatriyas, they started managing those things. And remaining 81 sons, they become brahmanas. That means, uh, uh, if you look at the way he classifies his yogis, brahmanas and kshatriyas. So brahmanas little lesser than yogis in the elevation point of view, mental elevation point of view, because they have not attained. Still, they need to become expert in Smriti and Vedas and other things. Then still they have to do the sacrifice, the rituals, and then become yogis kind of thing. So 81 sons of Rishabhadeva, they were performing the Brahmana duty. 9 were doing the Kshatriya duty. Then 10 were doing the yogis duty, who are already attained. So they started traveling all over the universe. They went to Vaikuntha and they were Parama Bhaktas of Madhusudana. And their intention was to help everyone. Then one day they came nearby the kingdom of Nimi. So as soon as Nimi saw them, Nimi is a very role model kind of king. As soon as he saw them, he offered them, worshipped them. He offered them lot of uh, good things, humbled them, and he made them happy, and he surrendered to them. And he said his intention was to ask some good knowledge from them. See, they say even such yogis, whoever they come nearby you, even however small is the interaction, but that is going to cause a big impact. That's what we see nowadays. If we need to meet a great leader, a 5 minutes time is good enough, because you get inspired by them. They arrange these dinner with this person, that person. They pay have a lot of money to just have one dinner or one lunch with a great successful people, right? Because what they get out of that meeting is, worth more than that. So I felt the same when we met Narendra Modi ji during Howdy Modi. Just interaction was what, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, but we felt so much inspired. So same thing with these yogis. They came to Nimi. Nimi was very much interested. I don't know how long they spent time with Nimi, but Nimi said made them happy. He was asking a joyfully was asking a question about Bhagavata Dharma. He was asking, how do we get rid of this, the materialistic world that is bringing us back every day? How do we perform? What to do? How do I become devotee of Bhagavan? In answer to this question, first yogi, Kavi, his name is Kavi. Again, if you go back to Vishnu Sahasranama, Kavi is the name of Vishnu. So there are so many hidden messages in this. Maybe when they talk about these names, it may be Bhagavan in the form of these rishis giving the messages, something like that. So this Kavi spoke very elaborately about what is Bhagavata Dharma. He says these are the means of the advancement which are described by the Bhagavan himself, because these 10 people visited Vaikuntha Loka. So he says that they have that authority to say. Even just anybody can follow this and they become great. They can achieve self-realization just by following this. That is called Bhagavata Dharma. He starts introduction to the Bhagavata Dharma. This Bhagavata Dharma manifested as a service to the Bhagavan's feet, lotus feet of Bhagavan, by all living being. By abiding the Bhagavata Dharma, one will never stumble or fail even while running with both eyes closed. That means blindly follow the Bhagavata Dharma. Sometimes, of course, they are going to explain what is Bhagavata Dharma. Sometimes there are some instructions they are given, but we have that doubt. That is the Maya of Bhagavan, right? Even they say just follow, then you will achieve it. We see that even the coaches in our career, in our life, or in our game activities, coaches will be telling us, do this, this will work, do this, but still we have a doubt. So here what Kavi says is, whatever the Bhagavata Dharma that we are going to explain here, if you follow eyes closed, still you get the self-realization. You don't have to be very, very intelligent guy. Better is follow it, then you will achieve. That is what Kavi starts explaining about Bhagavata Dharma. He says, whatever one does with his body, mind, words, or intelligence, consciousness, senses, and natural activities should all be offered to Narayana. Naham karta, harir karta hi kevalam. So that concept, this message has already been given in the Skanda 2, when Brahma asked Vishnu, you are asking me to start the creation. I know by doing this I will have the ego. How do I get out of this? For that, there is a discussion happened between Vishnu and Brahma. The same point was told. Again, Narada is telling the same thing here. So there is a meaning for repeating this thing every time, so that we'll be able to practice it. So he says, whatever you do, offer it to Narayana. When we do our work that is going to be offered to Narayana, naturally we want to do the good work. So maybe that is the corollary, that is the story behind telling these things. So he clearly says, whatever one does with the body, mind, and words, or the intelligence or the consciousness sensors, we should offer it to Narayana. And all living entities are impacted, they are impacted by the Maya of Bhagavan. So there's only way to get out the Maya is devotion. Pure devotion will take you out of the Maya. And he also explains, just by eating every day or maybe practicing your exercises every day, the way you achieve by eating small things every day, we start growing, right? A small kid, like maybe 1 year old, starts consuming the food and he becomes 18 year, he becomes stout person. How it happened? It did not happen on one day. It is a gradual progress. Similarly, the devotion is also a gradual organic progress that happens. Gradually we grow, but keep doing it. That's what he explains. Only he explained is surrender to Bhagavan with all tanu, mana, dhana and all the activities we do. Hari Chintana is always Naham Karta, Harir Karta, Hi Kevalam should be the mantra in and out of our breath. Should be if we are able to practice that, that means not we, he is talking to Nimi, the same applies to us, then you can achieve but it doesn't happen on a day, it is gradually, you will get there. This is the gist of what Kavi explained to Nimiraja. Then the next person, that is Havir, spoke. In one, this one it calls it as, they call it as Havir, and in another text they call it as Hari. I believe it is Hari. The second person of that yogis is called Hari and Havir. There I see two names, different names in two different texts. Anyway, Hari talks about describing the different characteristics of the devotees. Class 1, class 2, class 3, first class, second class, third class devotees. He is going to give classifications. One who offers all the prescribed worships and he faithfully worships the idols, he performs his day-to-day puja and everything he does. But if he doesn't respect the good people, if he doesn't respect the devotee of Hari, and if he thinks what he is doing is the great, others do not know, and that kind of person is called third rate bhakta. He doesn't say third rate, he calls classification, he calls as, he is that kind of persons, he calls them as a materialistic devotee. In English it called as materialistic devotee. In Sanskrit he says it is a lower level devotee, a regular devotee kind of thing. Second, he talks about one who shows love for Bhagavan, friendship for all the devotees, mercy for all the ignorant, and indifference for the enemies as well as friends. He is intermediate devotee. Third one, he says, see, these are the messages that we need to meditate upon, understand what we are doing on daily basis. This is the purpose of the Bhagavata Puran, explained in the form of stories, somebody is advising, all this is coming back to us. How do we apply? And the third one he says, and one who sees presence of Bhagavan in everything, in the living, non-living and everything. This is mostly environmentalist, right? If we think entire world is creation of God, in the entire world Bhagavan exists, then you don't do any mistakes, anything destruction. You will be very careful. So one who sees presence of Bhagavan, in everything and sees everything within the Lord, Bhagavan, he is the topmost devotee. And this cannot be achieved on a day one, it has to be gradually happening. So, like this, Hari explains, this is the second yogi explains Nimi all these descriptions. They also say the person who, of course, he explains, if the devotee, the bhag, he calls them as a Bhagavatottama. So the one who thinks everything, one who thinks presence of Bhagavan in everything is called Bhagavatottama. And that kind of person, he will not differentiate, he will not think he is egoistic, he will not have the ahankara, and all they give the lot of characteristics of Bhagavatottama. So like that, this remaining, of course, I don't want to go to each one's uh, what they explained in these chapters, because most of them seem to be repetitive. But anyone interested can really go to each one. Antariksha is the another guy. He gives details about how the pralaya happens, how the prakriti is there, and all those things. Then Prabuddha give a different operation, a different upadesha, and he talks about laukika sukha bhogas, how to get rid of those things, how not to be attached, all those things he talks. Then Pippalada is also giving a different set of upadesha. So all these 10 people give 10 different upadeshas to Nimi, then Nimi Raja. Then Havirhotra, Dhumila, all these brothers of sons, brothers, son who are the sons of Rishabha Deva, are giving the details. This is what Narada Muni is explaining very clearly to Vasudeva, father of Krishna, that this is what Nimi Raja got as an answer from these yogis. And they talk about talk about the Bhagavan avatars, how many avatars he took, why he took, all that is explained in these several up to 5 chapters of the this entire Bhagavata Puran, in the skanda, 11 skanda, and whatever these upadeshas are given in this is all covered in entire Bhagavata Puran. So like this, Narada gave the complete Upadesha to Vasudeva, son father of Krishna, and they say at the end, uh, Narada gave how to liberate from the illusory energy, and also he explained uh, all the entire details to Vasudeva, and Vasudeva started practicing, and he got the gist of it. So that means Narada says, Vasudeva, though Krishna has born as your son, don't think that you own him, or don't think that you are higher, but you have to surrender to the Bhagavan. He has come, he took birth as your son because you had done wonderful things in the past, but still to achieve the moksha, mukti, you have to surrender to the God, surrender, perform the Bhagavata dharma. So attempt all these things, and then you will achieve the highest goal of moksha. So that's how Narada explained Vasudeva during the visit to Dwarakas, to Krishna's place. So slowly Krishna is making sure whoever deserved in that his realm, nearby places. He gave all that knowledge so that they get to the next level, that is moksha or whatever that they are supposed to get, and end the entire avatara. So next section talks about the discussion between Uddhava and Krishna. How Krishna gave the similar messages to Uddhava. And if you go back to the Skanda 3, where we discussed about Vidura and Uddhava talking to each other, and Uddhava said, Krishna is completing. If you go back, see the Bhagavata Puran, they are doing a very strange way of telling the story. It's a very interesting way of telling the story. In third Skanda itself, we looked into the discussion between Vidura and Uddhava. Uddhava explained Vidura all those information in third Skanda actually was explained in 11th Skanda now. So what he explained, what is the message Krishna gave to Uddhava to spread it across the world, whoever deserves it, and how Uddhava shared that with Vidura, and how Vidura shared with rest of the world. All those things we can see in the next session. Then the next session will be talking about the end of the dynasty of Yadus. There is a small story part, but the philosophy part is the Uddhava Gita. Uddhava Gita is like a Bhagavad Gita. Uddhava Gita is also one of the Gitas. There are 13 different Gitas we come across in entire Bhagavata Puran. I think in one of the days we discussed about what are those 13 Gitas. Uddhava Gita is one of them. Maybe I will bring that back to next week when we meet. I will bring that back, those 13 Gitas, and reference the Uddhava Gita, and we can go through that. Till then, we'll do the Samarpana of all this discussion of Narada and Vasudeva, Nimi and these 10 yogis. This has been told to Parikshita by Shukamuni, and finally it went. If we remember, we started the story how in the Naimisharanya this Shaunakadi Rishis, Suta Puranika was explaining this. Actually, we started the story with Suta Puranika. Bhagavata starts with Suta Puranika explaining this to Shaunakadi Rishis. Then we come to story of Parikshita and Shukamuni. Then we come to Narada, and so like that nested stories. Then now we'll do the Samarpana of entire this story part and the discussion part to Krishna. So Sri Krishna Arpanam. We shall meet next time. We will discuss the Uddhava Gita.